Hey everybody, this is Ray Flick, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Welcome you back to our 43rd edition of the Weekly Static. Once again, we're doing our audio podcast experiment, and also we're changing things up a little bit. If you haven't read it on the site already and you've gone right to this, we're going to go with, from now on, one topic so we can kind of stretch it out and give it a little chance to breathe. We're still going to be spotlighting 5 articles from 5 Bleeding Cool television writers from the past week that we think you should really become familiar with and get to know. But we thought there's just some major issues that sometimes need a little bit more, again, time to grow and breathe beyond just 30 to 45 seconds. And this is one of them. Let me start off by saying I have cancer. Now, and you're hearing this, you're probably thinking, holy crap, Ray, that's like a 10-ton weight to start this off. That's not what this is about, but it kind of is, so be a little patient. Cancer isn't one of those topics that a lot of people think about and go, ha ha, chuckles, waka waka, like it's really funny. I'm one of those people. Until I heard Jeffrey Ross, roast master himself, Jeffrey Ross, he was actually speaking to a group of cancer survivors and, well, people who will continue to deal with cancer. And there was debate on the wording on that. But he, in the middle of talking to them, he essentially was roasting them. And he said he said this one joke. And it was, what is black and white and red in 6 months? Your will. And I have to tell you, I laughed probably harder than objectively I should have laughed at that joke. But from a personal standpoint, that joke meant a lot because it was so beautifully tasteless. And what it was something that I wasn't getting from most of the people in my life, which was either totally ignoring there was anything going on or acting like they're standing and interacting with a Walking Dead person. So it just was nice, and it was refreshing, and it was great, and I really appreciated it, and it helped with my thought process. But I also understand that there's a lot of people that would not appreciate that joke, and there's a good chance maybe I wouldn't have liked that joke, and there may be other cancer jokes out there I may not like. That's the point. With art, with humor, and with everything else, there may be certain things we don't like, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. That doesn't necessarily mean that they shouldn't exist. And that's what our topic is about today. The idea of killing art on the vine, and the idea that somehow the things that are out there in pop culture, in television specifically with what I'm going to be addressing, this idea that we can't like things that make us feel uncomfortable, that our entertainment should only be just mind-numbing entertainment. I know it's a little extreme, I apologize for that, but that there are certain subjects to the certain topics that shouldn't be addressed. And to be honest with you, I can't subscribe to that theory because I think it's a matter of how you address it. And the more controversial the topic, the more risk you take. But with risk, like in art, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, and the bigger impact you can have. What my concern is, and this is something I've been preaching and people who know me have gotten tired of hearing me say this, is we're constantly now living in 1 or 10. That it's either awesome, amazing, and the best thing since Jesus Christ, sliced bread, and rollerblades, or it's just horrible, and you're just a horrible person for liking it, and everyone around you are horrible people for even knowing you. That's pretty much where we're at. There's no 2 through 9 anymore. And trust me, this isn't I'm trying not to be the guy on the front porch slamming his cane on the ground going, you kids, because to be honest with you, this is a bigger issue with the old folks than it is with the younger generation. The younger generation, again, it's the same old, and I just said younger generation. Those younger than me give me a lot more hope and a lot more positivity than the people my age or older, because they just scare me. But again, we get into our tribes, we get into our little camps, and it's just we get so entrenched that we don't see the subtleties that are in play. I say this because, and I know this is equal opportunity here, when we're talking about killing artistic expression, especially on television, I look to the far right and I look to the far left, and I say, you're both doing the same thing. For me, and I hate to put it down to the most basic stuff, but this is how I see it. In the far right, it comes down to who I worship, what guns I own, and God bless America, she can do no wrong. And if you go against any of that, you need to be off the air, that you are horrible to our children, and that you are just going to lead to the degradation of society. On the far left, it seems like it's more narcissistically personal, where if it's something that personally bothers me, then it can't exist. And this idea of we don't play with the idea of who gets to be the judge and the arbitrator of that. And that's where I think it gets interesting, because we are constantly seeing one side thumbing their nose at the other as if they're not doing the same thing. But in typical fashion, we always think our reasons are legit and the other person are just a bunch of a-hole crazy people. You say it all the time. This is how I see it. When I appreciate art, I want the chance to appreciate art and make the decision for myself. I don't want my art being determined by who, what, and they you worship up in the sky. And I also don't want my art interpreted because of what happened to you as a child, and thus you think that that subject shouldn't be a subject for art for anybody. That bothers me on a number of levels. And that gets me into what I want to talk about today, which is, well, what do shows like 13 Reasons Why, Dear White People, Heathers, and Confederate have in common? All hard-thought shows that have either been killed on the vine or are still subject to controversy and hate mail and everything like that. 13 Reasons Why. 13 Reasons Why people don't like it because they don't want to face the realities of their failings as parents. And seeing teen suicide play out, how it plays out, makes people uncomfortable. But guess what? Uncomfortable works. How do we get people to stop smoking? We stopped giving the cartoon characters and we gave them x-rays of lungs. We showed them people talking through electronic devices through their stomas. That's what makes the difference. Not hiding things away and pretending these things aren't happening, because these things are happening. Something is falling through the cracks. And if we can get that out there and have the uncomfortable conversation, that literally saves lives. Dear White People, again, probably one of the biggest shows on television right now that is literally just inundated by waves of white privilege that does not realize it's white privilege. As if somehow Dear White People is some kind of anti-white people show. No, it's probably one of the best eye-opening programs for gender, race, sexual orientation, anything and everything across the sun. But of course, we just boil it down to the fact that it says Dear White People, so of course the defenses go up. Heathers got a chance to see the first episode before it got pulled. And for those of you who don't know, it's probably not going to be getting a network anytime soon. Because it's not going to be on the Paramount Network. It's rough. It's raw. It pulls no punches. It makes me wonder where it's going. I will say it is not for the faint of heart. It covers a lot of very uncomfortable subject matters just in the first episode. But again, it gets you thinking. It makes you feel uncomfortable. And Confederate, full disclosure, as much as I'm talking such big crap right now, I didn't put Confederate in the headline of this article strictly because I was afraid of how I was going to be painted. And the reason why I say that is because I had a debate with somebody, a colleague of mine, who said that the only people that would be interested in a show like Confederate, and for those of you who don't know, Confederate was going to be a project from the creators, from the main people, some of the main people behind Game of Thrones, and it was based on this premise of what would the United States be like if the South won and sectioned itself away. This person said the only people that would be interested in it would be middle-aged white guys who just have this hard-on dream that the South won the Civil War. And I have to say, that is as ignorant a statement as somebody in the Midwest saying, you like Preacher, which means you are godless, you have no faith, and you have no morality. They are both equally insulting. Because if you're saying that, then what you're saying is right now, everybody who watches The Man in the High Castle essentially are just Nazi sympathizers who like the idea of the Nazis winning World War II. And if that's your thinking and that's your mindset, you're as much of a problem as the person who wants stuff taken off of television because of their faith. And neither of those extremes are good. Art is about the uncomfortableness of things, not our hypocrisies. And when I talk about our hypocrisies, what I mean is strictly is this. We cannot expect from others what we are not going to expect of ourselves. We can't point fingers and accuse of censorship and killing freedom of expression if we are doing that also, whatever personal reasons or whatever good feelings we may think we're doing in the process. Also, we need to be honest about the subjects that we like and don't like. Uncomfortable topic right now. Clearly, no spoiler here. Rape is a rough, personal, raw subject matter. And there are people who have legitimate arguments when they say they don't think rape should be used as a plot device or in stories or in things like that. And I think that is a very interesting and nuanced debate to have. I personally, again, feel like there are no subjects that aren't worth attacking. You just take the bigger risk artistically. What I'm talking about hypocrisy with rape, though, is if we're going to view it like that, then we need to be consistent. We cannot use rape also as a morality judgment, and we cannot use it as a punchline. Two perfect examples I think of. Trading Places. Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, hysterical 80s comedy, but let's not forget, the biggest punchline of the movies at the end is that the guy gets raped by a gorilla repeatedly. Let's also look at HBO's Oz, where rape literally became a plotline device that people talked about, as in, I can't wait to see so-and-so get raped, or he's going to get his. We even talk about it in regards to our morality and the death penalty. I hear people all the time say, we cannot put people to death. Who are we to judge? We have that morality. And then we'll turn around and go, and besides, it's better for them to be in jail, because once they get in those showers, they're going to get what's coming to them. That's what I'm talking about, hypocrisy, folks. It's unrealized, unchecked hypocrisy, and that's kind of the big issue that we're talking about here. What I am talking about is common sense, and there are people who may hear this and think, Roseanne. That's not freedom of speech. In 2 occasions, comparing an African-American woman to an ape is not freedom of speech. That is not what comes into play. This wasn't something she artistically did on her show. She just went on another meltdown like she did before. Unfortunately, the network doesn't realize from past mistakes because you get blinded by ratings and wanting to get certain demographics. So the Roseanne thing needs to be kept off the table. What does need to be kept off the table as I wrap this up is a big prop I want to give to Netflix CEO Reed Hastings, who in defense of 13 Reasons Why, and I don't even need to go with the direct quote, basically broke it down to the message I want to give to all of you. Art is uncomfortable. It can create conspiracy. It can create thought. It can create argument. Sometimes it divides. More often than not, in the end, it unifies. But with television especially, at the end of the day, what you can do is change the channel. No one is saying don't express what you think. No one is saying don't say whether you think a show is good or not good, but give it a chance. Don't be that person that kills art before it's been created, before you've seen it and before you've had a chance to experience it. Because otherwise, you are just killing any level of television enlightenment that we have seen over the last 5 or 6 years. Change the channel, find something else that is suitable for what you want. There are more than enough options out there, but it is not your job, it is not your duty to police my brain and to police my thoughts. The 2 people who could do that, they stopped being able to do that when I turned 18, and unfortunately also when they passed away. I don't need anybody else to interpret art for me. I'd like the opportunity to do that for myself, just like I'd like for all of you to have the opportunity to.